And so if we could get the roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Merritt? Mr. Norton?
Here.
Ms. Pace?
Here.
Ms. Pratt?
Here.
Ms. Stubblefield?
Here.
Chair Kennedy?
Here. Okay, we are governed by the Freedom of Information Act, so if you wish copies of these minutes, they can be had at City Hall. Do we have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Okay, all right, the minutes are approved. Since we have no citizens here, there won't be any citizens' comments unless you have something, Aaron, from somebody.
We
No.
do have some comments, but those were submitted as part of the public hearing, and so I'll go over that when we talk about the hearing.
Okay, so for right now, there are no citizens' comments. Okay, unfinished business. Anybody have unfinished business that we wish to discuss? Okay. All right. New business. Okay, Michael, this is you.
So, Ms. Kennedy is going to recuse herself from this item of business, so we are turning the meeting over to our vice chair, Mr. Michael Norton.
So
All right.
what's this order of business?
So the first order of business is a public hearing. Excuse me. Oh, Heather, it looks like someone's trying to join the meeting. The first item of business is a public hearing on a proposed amendments to our lot merger ordinance. I'm going to ask that the commission please table this item and cancel the public hearing. We discovered some issues with the drafting of the ordinance. The amendments were proposed on an older version of the ordinance, not on the actually codified version of the ordinance. So although the meaning of the amendments would not be changed, we feel that procedurally we need to start over on a fresh, clean slate. So we have received 2 comments for tonight in opposition to the ordinance. We've reached out to those folks. We're going to carry their comments over to the rescheduled public hearing and also give them an opportunity to comment again at that hearing if they so choose. But in the meantime, we ask that you guys just table this item of business so that we can kill this ordinance and start fresh.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make that motion to table it.
I'll second.
All right. Heather's going to call the roll in just 1 second.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Pace? Ms. Pace? Ms. Pratt?
Try coming out.
Ms. Stubblefield?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Norton?
All right. Thank you, guys. That motion passes. I anticipate we're going to advertise that meeting in October to be held, so the public hearing can be held at your November meeting. So that ordinance will come back to you in essentially the same form, just on the correct version. So look forward to that at your November meeting. Thank you. I'm going to grab Ms. Kennedy. She can come back, join us. Thank you,
Thanks,
Vice Chairman
Michael.
Norton.
Okay, this will move us to staff comments, and that is Aaron.
All right. So welcome to our new members. This is a refresh for you guys as well as for everyone who's been on the board. Long story short is we are mid-update on our 2015 comprehensive plan. We are required to update that plan every 5 years. So 2020 would be the year we're required to review the plan. We thought we were doing a good job in getting a head start by starting about halfway through 2019. We had some momentum built going into January and February, and then March hit, COVID happened, and the comp plan update stopped. So we've basically been on pause on this since March. We do hope to get it done, if not by December of 2020, which is a tall order, but maybe shortly after in the early months of 2021 so that we can meet our 5-year update requirement. So since I know we've got some new folks, hey, Mr. Grant. All right. So we got some new folks, and also just for the benefit of everyone, including myself, I wanted to dust off the draft to date and just very quickly go over this and review the work we've done and where we are and what we have left to do. I do have some specific comments about certain sections, and certainly if you guys have any questions about specific sections or any specific suggestions, definitely feel free to throw them out there tonight. But I just plan tonight basically to be a quick overview, not a word-for-word rehash of where we've been and what's still left to do. So I'm going to get started on that. The comp plan basically consists of 9 elements and some maps, as well as an introduction, and then a section on goals and objectives. We edited the introduction of the plan, and everything you see in red, these are amendments that we proposed. And each one of these sections has already been to the Planning Commission to review while we were working on this. So, we've seen this before, but definitely if any of the new folks see anything that jumps out, any omissions or anything they think needs to be added, please let me know. Call me, email me, talk about it in the meeting, talk about it outside the meeting. We want everyone's feedback. It is kind of a dry read, but the more eyes on it, the better. Right off the bat, I know that the Planning Commission members, City Council members, even now the administration staff, all those have to be updated from 2019 to 2020 because those are all different now. In the table of contents, we have done 4 of the 9 elements. We have done land use, economics, community facilities, and one other that I have in here, population. So we still have outstanding. We have to do natural resources, transportation, cultural resources, the housing element, and the priority investment element. There is an optional element for comp plans for sustainability, resilience. We reviewed a draft of Charleston County's new sustainability resilience element back in the spring or late winter last year, and the commission decided at that time that rather than go ahead and push forward on the standalone resilience element this go round, we would work that through into all of these other elements, and then when we redo the comp plan in 2025, have that as a standalone element. And we hope that's going to tie in nicely with the new position that the city will be hiring. So there is no standalone sustainability resilience element proposed at this time. We do have a draft and we do have a model from Charleston County in case we decide towards the end of the process that we want to make it a standalone instead of putting it in all these elements. So there's a possibility of one more element to go. In addition to the narrative of the document, we have to update our needs and goals. The needs and goals were the action items identified in the plan, broad goals with specific implementation strategies. I'm going to go over that in a minute, kind of separately from this. We got started, we reviewed our progress, but we have not set new goals and we have not prioritized the outstanding goals. So that's something we're going to have to do. That's really the most important part of this. The draft is great and serves as a record, but the needs and goals serve as our action plan, our task list, and those filter down and inform all of the activities of the city. So that's really the meat of it that happens kind of at the end. I'm going to talk about that separately. But just to go through the draft here, the introduction is very basic stuff. It lays out what a comp plan is, how we do it. You'll see on page 11, and this is the only section that has the benefit of page numbers, but on page 11, we added a few more reference documents. One thing we tried to do very consciously when we wrote this in 2015 was to capture all the existing long-term planning that was happening in the city at that time, and make sure that those goals were worked into the comp plan and that the comp plan fed into what those things were doing. Since then, we've added a few more. The sea level rise plan, the dune management plan, our strategic plan, and the marsh management plan, which has now been finalized even since this draft was written. We have another one that will probably be finalized before the end of the year, which is an island-wide drainage master plan that's going to identify capital improvements for the drainage system and prioritize those. So we'll definitely get that in here. And the reason it's important to make sure all these things reference each other is because, especially with the comp plan, it's the kind of the foundational document in terms of planning in the city. And if the goal's in here, then that helps us when we apply for grants. Anything we do, basically, being able to point to something and saying, that's in our comp plan, strengthens our case for doing it. So we want to make sure that all the important priorities from any other long-range plan are in here. So that's kind of where the introduction comes in, just to reference these things and make sure we have captured all of them. Other than that, it's mostly verbiage in the introduction, and the all-important getting the credits due to all you guys for all your hard work and all of City Council for all of their hard work. The first actual element of the comp plan that we reviewed is our land use element. The updates we did were basically to summarize growth in housing since 2015. We talked about the new Marsh Island residential zoning district that we created, reviewed some of the stuff that's been going on in the Center Street or downtown commercial area. Since 2015, we've really had kind of a boom in right here in the core of the island. We've had a lot of new construction, a lot of new use types for us, like speculative rental duplexes. We've had a rental triplex proposed. So kind of crossing that line into speculative building for rentals is I think, an important marker. We also had what I'll call the great parking debate, where we removed parking because we had stifled growth in the central business district. We got some growth, and then we realized maybe we'd gone too far, and so we put the parking back. So that happened, and so currently we do have parking requirements again in the downtown commercial district. It's possible that one day we may want to re-examine the ratios and that sort of thing. What else? A lot of the land use stuff kind of got tacked on to the end as a summary of our moratorium work. In 2018, culminating in early 2019, we passed a lot of new things, a lot of big new things for Folly Beach. A 15-foot setback for the marsh, a 40-foot setback from the beach, the lot merger ordinance that we were going to hear tonight for some amendments. So we did a lot of work, and that kind of all got summarized here at the end. I have not yet sat down and added the things we've done since February or March. The good news is they've kind of slowed down, but there are things we've been working on. You guys are also going to be having a public hearing for a requirement for a multi-use path for any redevelopment on Folly Road or development. We do have 1 4-acre parcel left, but in case redevelopment happens on those few parcels that we have that are part of the Folly Road corridor study, we will be requiring a multi-use path on those. You'll see that coming online in bits and pieces on James Island. If you look in front of the new Publix, it's there. The other jurisdictions have all passed this ordinance. At the city council meeting, and I can forward you guys, we've got a memo summarizing the bits and pieces that are either have been fully funded or built. So we're starting to see concrete results of the Rethink Folly Road study that we participated in a few years ago and we actually pay for on an annual basis. I think that multi-use path will be the first really high visibility result of that. And it will take 15 years for it to be all the way down Folly Road on every piece of property. Could be sooner if the pace of redevelopment, keeps going the way it is. But, it is happening and it is there. And so we're going to get on board with that. For those of you who don't know, we've also got a turn lane coming on Soligree Road on to Folly Road towards the beach. So it will be a right turn lane leaving Saul Agree to get folks who are going to the beach separated from folks who are going to town. That was funded through Charleston County, I believe, transportation sales tax money. I'm not sure the exact source of county money, but it's one of their tax money funding. The folks at Saul Agree actually requested that, and we worked with them. So that's coming. So there are some few things that need to be updated on here. But generally speaking, since March, the land use front has kind of been slow. But we'll get anything that's passed this year into this element. Mm-hmm.
How far does the city of Folly Beach's control of that corridor of Folly Road, where does that end?
So we go to Treasure Island Beach Store. So there is a parcel in between Harris Teeter and Treasure Island. So when you see it's a lower, both of those sites filled up. So it's kind of that low lot in between. That's not in our jurisdiction. And then on the other side of the road, we kind of skip over the apartments that they're across from Harris Teeter. And then we have a large vacant piece of property on the corner of Teal Marsh, and we have 4 houses in Riverfront. We randomly got those 4 houses during the annexation battles of 2005. So we have 4 houses in Riverfront. But as a general marker, it's Treasure Island Beach Store.
Thanks.
So that's land use. The next element we did is economics. And I apologize for the formatting here. I turned this over to someone else to plug in the numbers, and so it's not an exact match of formatting, but basically nothing radical or new in our 5-year update here. We just wanted to go through and adjust some of the numbers based on the new census estimates about employment, how many people are working, what the average income is. It's interesting that down here in income on that first page, the average median income on Folly Beach is about $87,000 a year, which puts us well ahead of both the county, state, and federal averages. Nothing earth-breaking or earth-shattering in here. Let's see. We do highlight that in 2019, non-primary residences, or 6% properties, account for 69% of the value of assessed property in the beach. So that works out to be that non-owner occupied homes are generating 20% of the city's total revenues, which is a pretty big contribution. We are going to look at this section fresh and add a COVID update in it. We're not out of COVID yet, but we hope that we're out of the worst of it. And the worst of it just happened to coincide with the end of the last fiscal year. So that March, April, May, June period. For accounting purposes for the city, the bulk of the COVID effects happened actually last year, not this year. And we came out, we were very fortunate in terms of city revenues. Of course, we saw declines in sales, hospitality, and ATAX, but we also saw huge jumps in business licenses and permits. So the books have been closed, so to speak, on last year, and we actually came out, as a city, we came out relatively unscathed because of the increase in permits and licenses. The roadblock that killed the sales tax and the accommodations tax was a boom for permits and licensing. I think was it 270-ish? We made somewhere north of $250,000 extra on permits and licenses during the roadblocks.
Aaron, where did that come from? What permits and licenses? Building permits?
Yes, sir. So because we had a roadblock, we were able to check everyone's business license who claimed they were coming onto the beach to do a job, and then we were able to check all of the permits they claimed to be working on.
Oh, I see.
And so that's so
Okay. And that resulted in a large increase in
about
do you have an idea how much money?
more than $250,000
Wow.
in that period.
I'll make a motion to put the roadblock back up.
That much money in the past, right?
Sir?
So that nobody has been losing that much revenue in the past?
Yeah.
Obviously.
The- the- Yeah, So it is kind of moderated by the fact that there was more work going on, because since no one was in the rental houses, everyone took advantage of that to pull permits to do everything they've been waiting for. But there's definitely been some missed opportunity there, obviously. I wouldn't say all of it would have occurred without COVID, but some of it definitely would have. And another thing we're going to do to add to update the economic section is we're going to add in a discussion on the bond referendum that passed. We got 2.1 or 2.3 million dollars in for the renovation of City Hall and also pedestrian paths. So we're going to add that to the economic discussion
There's
here.
pedestrian paths at Second Street?
So they're going to be at Second
and
Street
West.
East, Second Street West, and on Ashley from Second Street East to Second Street West.
Okay.
So
all right.
it'll kind of be a U.
Crossing Center Street.
yep.
Okay, all right.
And it's going to hop sides of the road on Ashley, and we have all those plans. They're actually going out to bid. That's one of the projects Spencer's going to do to wrap up. So we are bid ready for those pedestrian paths. So we've got the money. They're designed. They're 90% permitted from the state, and so they're going to go out to bid soon, and we hope to have construction started and finished on at least some portion of it before the season starts next year.
When we talk about pedestrian passes, we're talking about lining the street across.
No, sir.
And,
These are shoulder improvement. No, sir. These are shoulder improvements. So there'll actually be a path built along the shoulder of the road. In some portions, it'll be a concrete sidewalk, curb, and gutter for drainage purposes. But for the rest of it, it'll be an at-grade, permeable asphalt type product.
how far is this gonna go up and down?
It's going to go 2nd Street West from Indian to Ashley, 2nd Street East right now from Cooper to Ashley. Wait, one block back from Cooper. Erie to Ashley, and then along Ashley Avenue from 2nd East to 2nd West.
So is it just removing that parking there and putting that?
Yeah, in some places the parking, in some places the shoulder parking will go away entirely. In some places the path will kind of bend in, and there'll be a path and the parking. So it's site specific.
So there'll be no more parking on Second Street West on the shoulder.
I'll have to figure out if they're gonna. I don't remember if they're just gonna switch the side of the road or what they're gonna do. But I have that information somewhere I can get to you.
That was what was proposed, was they'd switch the parking to one side, Michael, and then across from your house, they wouldn't be there. So pedestrian path was to run across the street from your house, and then the parking would be on your side. Well, okay.
Well, I'll
That's
figure out.
fine.
I'll figure out what the plan is. I'm not sure if they're just gonna switch the side of the road there's no parking or not. But I'll find out and let you know.
If they park on my side, then they're parking in my way.
You're right.
Well, we do know that you have an exemption for the right of way there. So whatever plan is in effect has taken that into account.
That is used a lot by Turn of the River, I mean, not Turn of the River, what if there's, all the condos that are back in there. They use that Second Street right-of-way to go to the beach. So you have people walking down there all the time.
We
on
really
Second
wanted,
Street.
I think all of this kind of originated at Second, I'm sorry, I'm just checking feedback from the audience. All of this kind of originated from Second Street West. We've all driven it, and it's really what spurred all of this, just seeing the
How
constant
many-
stream of
how
folks
many
in
people
the
actually
road.
Use that, yes.
So in theory, you'll be able to leave Turtle Bay or Water's Edge in, walk to Ashley, hang a left, walk all the way to 2nd Street East, hang a left, and come to Burt's on a nice, nicely graded, accessible, grade, traffic separated pedestrian path.
I didn't think about them coming back to Burt's, but people do walk there all the time, so.
So that's economics. The next element we reviewed is community facilities. And this is kind of a summary of the assets of the city. There's not a whole lot really to talk about here. It kind of is what it is. since 2015, we've added several pocket parks. We've renovated some facilities. Some of the things, even in the red here, were pending in January, and now they're set. Like the City Hall renovation is underway. The dock project at this park is underway. So we'll update this to include things that have happened since January. The pier construction is no longer proposed. It's actually happening now. But other than that, this is kind of a list of city facilities. One thing that we're going to try to do is make sure we reference the 5-year update to the 2015 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. They also did their master plan when we were doing our comp plan. I think they're working or about to start working on their 5-year update. So any future facilities that are predicted by their update, we're going to try to get them in here as proposed. One thing I just want to, just for interest, kind of the next to last page is beach walkovers and accesses. It talks about the Coastal Access Grant. That's a grant program that has not been funded for several years. It was the primary source of money we used to build new mid-block walkovers during our mid-block. Is that federal money? It's state money. And that's how we were building all of our new walkovers to open the mid-block rights of way. That's been unfunded for a while. We hear whispers, but we don't know that they may be restoring some funding to that program. So if it does become available, we'll definitely be pursuing it.
And has there been any discussion of looking around the island, and I've noticed that a lot of those mid-block walkovers have been taken over by the houses and are no longer really truly accessible. Has there been any discussion going through and trying to open them back up?
If you know of any that are physically blocked by a fence or a wall or something that stops people,
You need to let me know.
send those to us.
It's not.
So, in 2000, I believe now it was I think it was also, was it 2013? I'm sure it's referenced in here. Several years ago, let's just put it that way. We sent the Planning Commission out to physically inspect every mid-block right-of-way section on the island from the river to the thing. And then we undertook some pretty contentious removal efforts. And we thought that there.
We physically took pictures of both sides of every block. And then we brought all that in to Aaron. And then the planning commission
I couldn't hear him at all.
came up with a plan. that-
Can you get
Oh,
close to
I'm
that?
sorry. Aaron had all of us volunteer and I took 3 blocks, but we took them all the way from the ocean to the river and took pictures of every one of these walkovers from both sides. Then the planning commission started with the easiest ones and worked our way to the hardest ones. So in other words, the ones that were all clear, didn't need a tree cut down, didn't have a resident that had an encroachment or anything. We dealt with the easiest ones first, and then we worked our way up.
And so
That's the way we did it.
we had physical obstructions, fencing, walls, gates, taken down from several. There is one in the 3rd block that was given permission to remain because that mid-block easement is inaccessible from Arctic to the beach. And so they actually got permission from City Council to not take away their mid-block blocking fence until we did something about that access. But if you know of any specific ones that have a fence or a gate or a wall, please send them to us and we will pursue it. The other kind of philosophy there. Yes, sir. Anyone who's landscaped the mid-block right of way. Now, pair that with the philosophy that our goal was to get them all free and passable at least once, and then the ones that were used, would stay open, and the ones that were no one ever walked on again, we wouldn't keep cutting. So, if they're overgrown and you know of one that could be used, let us know, and Eric will get someone to trim it. But we do depend on use to kind of keep them open. But definitely send us a list, because that's something that is an ongoing thing that we always want to stay on top of.
Thank you, it's more curiosity, but I
Okay.
appreciate your response.
All right.
Most of the ones going across mid-block on the ocean side on Arctic are open. Most of those mid-blocks. The ones that are not open so much would be the ones you get back Cooper and Erie Street. Most of those are not, because they would not be used to much degree. But all of those on the ocean that I'm aware of, the mid-blocks, are at least passable.
Yeah, I think we got the ocean pretty good. I mean, one good thing is we've had multiple homeowners kind of adopt the sections by their house and keep them open, and particularly recognize the work of Mr. Ryan Buck, who opened the mid block on the first block all the way. He came and donated his own time and energy, and he keeps it open. So we've gotten some private, I call them private partnerships, but definitely anytime anyone sees one that's obstructed, let us know, because that's right up there with right-of-way obstructions. And I know a man who will get right on that.
Those are actually called fire lanes, if we want to go back to when they were platted in 29. They were supposed to break up the lots.
Right, yep. So, the next one, and I think the last of the actual narrative sections we got to, was population. And this one also was a pretty straightforward, we went in and we took the most recent census estimates from the community profile that Esri does, and just plugged them in and changed the numbers. We did highlight the short-term rental things on the last page, and even this can be updated now. Now we're up to 1,030 documented short-term rentals. I see here when we had 980. This is a big deal in terms of our population. For each rental, we ask the number of bedrooms, and then we calculate a maximum occupancy. And at the time this was written, a 75% occupancy rate based on the bedrooms and the number of people who could legally stay at the house would put an additional 5,600 people on the island at any given day. That's all.
I didn't follow that.
So every rental that registers with the city, we ask them the number of bedrooms, and we calculate a maximum
You asked
occupancy.
the number of bedrooms they're gonna use?
No, how many are in the rental? How many bedrooms does your unit have? And they write back 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
And so we calculate a maximum occupancy.
And it's 2 per bedroom plus.
Plus 2,
cabins,
right, yep. So since we have those numbers, we know the theoretical maximum occupancy if every rental was full. And if we have a 75% rate of full rentals, it's an additional 5,600 people on the island on any given day. So if 75% of the rentals are full out here, we have an extra 5,600 people, which is a little less than twice as many permanent residents here on a weekly basis. Now, occupancy rate can shift, and it's probably not always 75. We just pick that as a general guideline. But in general, our rental houses host around twice as many people as actually live here. Just to put it in context of how many renters we have versus residents at any given time. This doesn't count day trippers. So we,
It's not like in
That
our
also
building.
doesn't have hotels.
right, and it doesn't count the hotel.
In our building, we have like anywhere from 400 to 600 people every Saturday during that 10-week period this summer. We have 70 rentals, and they're 3 to 4 bedrooms, so there are 8 to 10 people. And we calculate between 400 and 600 people. I mean, we have extra staff, pool extra times, cleaning elevators extra time.
And just think, and that's so cool, because if you think about it, with roughly 2,600 permanent residents, 600 people, that's a quarter of the population of Folly Beach rotates through Oceanfront Villas every day. It's fascinating.
Probably doesn't think it's cool.
Oh, yeah, right.
just during that 10 weeks. No, I think it's
Right,
cool.
yeah.
I mean, you know, as president, I mean, I want what's good for all of the owners, but you're right, I live there, and
So, you know,
so your comment is right.
so many discussions that, you know, that we have at budget time, at accommodations tax time, grant writing time, is where does the city spend its money? And when we say, well, we spend our money servicing people who don't live here, it's not the day trippers, it's because in the summer, 2 times more people live here than actually live here, and that's where all our money is going for their trash, their police car, you know, calls. So it's really good supporting documentation for our arguments that the city's budget is primarily spent servicing people who are not permanent residents.
Exactly.
So those are our narrative sections. That's where we are to date. We have 5 more sections to go. I would like to be able to tell you which ones are coming next and when they're coming, but we're in a little bit of flux at City Hall right now. Let's just say that sometimes between now and February, we have 5 more sections to go.
Well, when we're meeting once every 6 months.
Yeah, hopefully we won't go that far again. And
How
then
long are you gonna be out of City Hall?
we're planning for a year.
A year?
What are
Okay.
they doing still?
They are completely gutting the interior and rebuilding it, including some structural beams underneath.
Why? Were there problems?
Well, the building's knocking on 30 years old. It's probably over 25 years old. It's just functionally obsolete. More than 50% of the floor space on that building was dedicated to circulation in the hallways. You know, there's nice wide hallways down the side of the building. They took up 50% of the floor area. We've added a few more staff people since 1996. And, you know, you say, oh, 3-4 more people, that's, you can work around that. But when the building was only built for 8 people and now you have 12 people, you run into space issues. The sound system in city council chambers has never been stellar, almost as good as this one we have now. We just continually have issues with the sound system, the wiring. It wasn't built for the internet age, so all the technological needs that exist in 2020 that weren't around in 1996, basically the building just needed to be updated and refreshed.
Well,
So-
I don't mean to swear, but it scares the shit out of me because our building's 23 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have to
Well-
tear our building down. and
Well, I
rebuild
think
it.
you guys have done a good job of staying on top of it. So that's, yeah,
I don't know.
no comment. I will say that we found out as recently as this move that the air conditions on the roof had never been properly connected to where they need to go. So there have been issues in that building for a long time.
So you were cooling the outside?
Something was routed to let outside in and generate the moisture. That's why the ceiling tiles were always wet.
Right, okay. Well, that makes
Who approved
sense.
the contract for that new building?
For the original one,
The new building, the one that's sitting, standing down there?
I don't know. That was before me. So it could be less than a year, but we're planning for a year. So after
Okay.
tonight, 11 more meetings in this room, guys.
Okay. Well, this used to be
If we're
where
lucky.
all the meetings were held, including city council and court. So, it's been there.
So
No, no, you're right.
So the last kind of group of papers you have there, paper clipped, this is the needs and goals section from the last round in 2015. These are all the things we said that the city should do and how we should do it. Hey, I heard it too. I hope the sensor is working. So it's color coded, and I'm not going to go over every one, and it's harder to read in print than it is on the computer. But basically, blue items are things we've done that are directly related to the goal. Actual things projects we've completed, plans we've rewritten, things that we've done to implement these goals. The red items are things that we worked on and we're for whatever reason, decided to not go forward. Just some examples, incorporating green building practices into the building code. We formed a committee. They studied that for a year. They made some findings. Those findings turned out that, this wasn't really the route we wanted to go, so that was taken off the table. So there are some red things in here. These are goals that have been looked at, studied, and rejected either at the planning commission, city council, or staff level, and are kind of considered closed out. The orange goals are things that we've identified as important, but we haven't really made any progress on. So we've got 3 categories. Blue, we've done some work on that goal. Some of them we've achieved the entire goal. Some of them we've partially achieved. Red, goal was looked at. It was studied by a committee or the planning commission or city council, and it was, taken off the table. And then the orange are the ones that we said in 2015 we wanted to do, but we haven't really made any progress on. When we finish the draft, we're going to look at these goals, look at the orange ones in particular, and say, are these still relevant to us? Are they still important? Do we want to carry them over? And then sort them. Maybe they turn red and go away, or maybe they persist. And also the blue stuff, we'll update that with the more work that we've done, and we'll decide how much further we want to take those goals. That is something that really is only successful with public input. Those of you who have been on the commission know this. Those of you who are now on the commission will soon find out that we often meet in this room by ourselves with relatively limited public participation. So when we get to the goal setting section, we really want to try to get the word out there, say, guys, this is the new draft of our comprehensive plan. We are setting our priorities for the next 5 years. Please give us your opinion. We've got a very, very basic survey that was developed here at the end. Basically, we wanted to find out if people were aware of the comp plan. If they were aware of the comp plan, what parts of it do they think are important for us to go forward? And if they weren't aware for it, we'd give it to them and encourage them to read it. But once we get the narrative done, we're going to have a few public meetings. I don't know what format that's going to be in now in the time of COVID, but we're going to push hard to get this draft out in front of many people and say, hey, here's our list of goals. What should we focus on in the next 5 years? And also, is there anything that has come up in the last 5 years that's not in this document that we should add? So that'll be like the last big push we do before we send the whole thing to city council.
Part of that to get participation from your residents is going to be to throw something out there. Okay, we're going to open.
A West Cooper walking path.
There you go. Something similar to that, and then you will get the public to come in. Otherwise, no.
You don't put anything out there, it doesn't upset them.
If you don't put anything out there, they're not going to give us their input.
That's an excellent point. And so I would encourage all of you to think of the most controversial thing you would like to promote. We haven't sent it out yet. So we're waiting till we get this draft. We're waiting till we've got the draft released or finished, and then we're going to do the goals afterwards based on the updated draft. So this is kind of this.
We could put something in there like, we're planning a COVID-friendly building or town that's owned by a franchise company.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, now, you'll get there, you'll get it going there if you talk about a franchise company, yes.
Will more people come if they don't have to leave their living room, if they can just,
Well, they can do that,
Can you
they can
tell
do
how
that
many people are
anyway,
watching right
but they
Can we
can
meet
do
the
that.
new people? Are there new people here?
Yeah, yes, sir. So Heather can actually check how many people are watching. And we have 0 folks who tuned into the planning commission and made it this far, at least. So that is something we struggle with. And
No, I didn't mean that, I meant the new members.
oh yeah, yes, sir. Just in 1 sec.
Okay.
We struggle with it, and with the draft narrative update, it's not as huge. A lot of this is just updating what's already there. We're not necessarily trying to break new ground, but with the goals, we really need to know what people think is important so that we can filter this down to the police department, the building department, the finance department, all of the departments, so that we're doing what people think is important for the city to do, for city council to know when they make their annual strategic plan. So if people don't tune in between now and Christmas, they're lost. But, you know, when we get to the goals, I'd really like to ask everyone's help to get this out in front of as many people as
This has
possible.
come a long ways, because the first one I presented to city council and handed it to them as a comp plan, they wanted to know what it was.
Right.
And so this has come a long ways in, over the years on, as, of course, this was a state mandated thing for us to do, but it has helped with educating people on what the needs and goals for the beach are.
And so,
Nothing good this whole time, and nobody was watching.
Okay, Michael.
And so, while we're here, and Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry we didn't start with introductions. I guess we'll put you guys on the spot and let our new
We
members.
have to elect officers too.
Let's see, 1, 2. I'd like to wait till we get the full board. We have one more outstanding appointment that's going to get made either this month or next month, and then we'll have a full board of 9. But we are due for new officers.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, I don't know if we're due for new.
we're new for election. So Mr. Anderson, we got Ms. Stubblefield and Ms. Pace, who are both our new members.
Hey,
And
I'm Greg, that's Mike, that's Alon.
yeah, we should have started with that, and I apologize. Ms. Pratt, Mr. Grant, and Mr. Norton joining us, and we are down one person. Mr. Barker got elected, so his position on this board is vacant until they fill it. So I don't know if they're going to vote for it on October 13th. If they don't, they will definitely do it at the November meeting, and we'll have 9 folks again, and then we'll get our elections.
Oh, the council votes for the,
Well, it depends on whether they're appointed or at large. Okay, you've got 2 at-large members, and the others are appointed by the council.
And that's all I have.
Okay, all right, so, that's any further commission comments? Anybody want to make a comment?
no, except the guy's not here.
Next time I'll be at
Calls for adjournment.
Oh, Kurt Grant, yeah, he left us, didn't he?
Yeah, and thank you all for your
Mike,
patience.
you stand in for Kurt?
You're wrong, I'm still here.
Oh, you are?
All right, it's your turn. It's your turn.
Oh, yes, it's my turn.
Okay.
All right. We
We're
are
off record.
off record at 7:51, and if you guys